What's going on, everybody? This is Joey of Underage Packers. Today, to join me on a very special topic is Alex Strouf. Am I pronouncing that right?
You're close. It's Strouf. You're close, though.
All right, yeah, I have a confusing last name too. So, Alex from the Pack a Day podcast, glad to have you on.
Hey,
So,
thanks for having me, Joey. Always a pleasure, man.
no problem. I'm just want to, with Big B going, I'm getting bored talking to myself. So, glad to have anybody to join me. Today, me and Alex will be comparing the 2019 Packers to the 2020 Packers, both coached by Matt LaFleur. I think they're really interesting, especially after that Colts game. We're seeing a lot of similarities and a lot of differences throughout the season. So let's start with 2019. It was Matt LaFleur's first year as a head coach, second year play calling, a 13-3 season for a rookie head coach. It's obviously not too bad. They were averaging 23.5 points per game. And really last season, I think he had the defense, which was, I wouldn't say was stellar, but they're obviously a lot better than they are right now. I think Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith were on a whole nother level than they are right now, especially Preston. And they were 6-2 against teams at or over 500. So that's there for you for all the people that said they can't win against good teams last year. So I think it's really interesting. And then you look at 2020, 1-2 against teams at or over 500% winning, 29 points averaging per game. That was 36 before the bye week, 7-3 so far, and it's obviously Matt LaFleur's second year as a head coach. So I guess, the offense is the biggest difference there, and really the defense and offense has changed so much. There really wasn't too many big losses on both sides. Brian Bulaga, who was easily replaced, or not easily replaced, but, stable by Billy Turner and Lucas Patrick moving around. So what do you think, because I see these teams very different. Well, who do you think is there a play that either dropped off or a player that really stepped up that is a big difference from this year to last?
I think the biggest difference, and it's expected, would be the progression under Matt LaFleur, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
going into year two of a head coach. You're going to see progression. I think we've seen that with the uptick in scoring, and the offense, as frustrating as it's been some weeks this year, they've been, just phenomenal for the most part. At least on the point side of things, they're putting up a lot of points.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the defense. We were having those conversations last year, especially early when they started the year 3-0. Is this a top 10 defense finally?
Yeah.
The Packers finally have that defense. And then we kind of got the reality check, but we still saw some really stellar play, I think is the word you used, out of Z and Preston and Kenny Clark and Jair. And, we were good with the defense last year. And
Yeah.
I think we can get back to that level still this year. I think there's still enough time where we can finally have that, it will happen one day, Joey, where we have the game where everything goes right for the Packers and we walk
Yeah.
away, we're just thinking, holy crap, this team
Exactly.
can't be stopped. But to your point, I don't know if it boils down to any particular, player by any means. I think, we've had our fair share of Mike Pettin chats this year where we think, from a schematic standpoint,
Yep.
what has changed? Why is he running 3-man rushes all the damn time? Things like that. So, to answer your question, I know I'm rambling, but I don't know if it boils down to any specific player. I think it's
Yeah.
more of the, you've seen the progression on offense, but you've seen the road bumps as well. So definitely progression for the most part, I think, from year one to year two under LaFleur. But there is a lot of similarities between the 2 years as well.
Yeah, going into the season, a lot of the theory was that this would be a better team with a worse record because of that point that you mentioned, that it's second year in an offense where Aaron Rodgers has known only two systems, or if you want to count Mike Sherman in his rookie year as a system, there you have it. But, as a starter, he's only been under Mike McCarthy, which was a lot of the same stuff over 10 years there.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing for the 2019 team that was, I wouldn't say lucky, but they did really well, was staying healthy. And so far, we've had a lot of stars miss extended period of time. Devontae Adams, who's had multiple injuries this season and is still on pace for well over 1,000 yards at this point. Alan Lazard has been missing games since week 3. Aaron Jones just getting back into the mix. So, I mean, I think those injuries are more to say on COVID without the extended preseason. And, injuries happen in the NFL either way. So, we were talking about those losses, Brian Bulaga, Blake Martinez, and Geronimo Allison. I think the Packers really replaced them really smoothly, and this year was a great year, an example of draft and develop. Rashawn Gary, MVS, really, as well, right there.
Yeah.
Besides the untimely mistake in overtime, he had a really great game in Indy, had a really great game in San Francisco. So for as much talk as we had to look at for this wide receiver core is awful without Devontae Adams, MVS and Allen Lazard have really filled their roles really well. And I mean, Geronimo Allison was kind of taking that place for MVS last
Yep.
year. So how would you compare the 2019 and 20 receiving core for the Packers?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think, this year is, like you mentioned, kind of that next man up mentality, right? We didn't know what the hell to expect when we were talking in preseason. We knew we had Devontae Adams. We hoped Allen Lazard could have another good year. And then it was a bunch of question marks after that. I mean, we didn't even know who was going to make the roster in August. We didn't know if Kumara would still be around, right? I mean, we had no idea what we were looking like going into this season. And, Aaron Rodgers, and I've said this many times, I've been on the record in even past years before 19 with Aaron Rodgers saying he is the best quarterback ever at making something out of nothing, and not to say the receiving core for Green Bay is nothing right now, but Aaron Rodgers has made guys like MVS and the aforementioned Jay Kumaro and Jeff Janis look like absolute all-stars. And, when you have a quarterback that has the ability to make, a regular schmegular guy into, a guy that looks like an all-pro receiver, you're probably going to have pretty solid results, especially when you have a top 3 receiver on your offense. So, as much as we complained, as much as we yelled into the void and tweeted our expletives earlier this year when the Packers didn't draft a wide receiver, I think standing at 7-3 and looking at the games that you mentioned MVS has had, and the something we haven't mentioned yet, I'm sure we'll get to, the implementation and the higher usage of the tight end. We've seen big Bobby Biceps Tunyon have a huge year. We've seen Jay Sternberger and Mercedes Lewis get some involvement in the receiving game that we haven't typically been used to with the Packers. So, back to my point, though, as much as we complained about not drafting a wide receiver, I don't know how much a rookie wide receiver would have done that MVS hasn't. And I think EQ, St. Brown, still got, I think he's still got time to develop. He had that nice play last week, against Indianapolis where it seemed like he was 14 feet in the air. So I'm happy with it. Obviously I would have liked to see what happened if they drafted a wide receiver, but I'm not crying over spilled milk anymore.
Yeah, and I think what you bring up about the tight ends goes to a larger point. So many times through Matt LaFleur's rookie year, we heard him say in his press conferences that's something we want to get to during the offseason. And obviously COVID ruined a lot of their offseason meetings and all of that. But there's just a lot of different stuff. And I feel especially weeks 1 through 4, I'm not sure where too much of that has been lately. They were doing a lot of different things. And Matt LaFleur comes through a system where they really value tight ends, Sean McVay and all of that good stuff. And I can't remember if it was him or Sean McVay that was the tight ends coach for Washington under Shanahan. But yeah, he's really done a really good job at that and using not only his tight ends, but his running backs. Hopefully we see Jamal Williams more as a running back and a receiving threat.
GOAT!
The GOAT! I know Big B would be going nuts right now. So yeah, as far as tight ends, he's done a really good job at, like you mentioned, just using people other than wide receivers. And hopefully that comes more to notice. So Bobby Tunyon, like you mentioned, so we lost Jimmy Graham. And I know, speaking of Jimmy Graham, Andy Herman is taking a little bit of heat right now for comparing him to Preston Smith. And I see a lot of people, I don't think, getting that response or that similarity analogy.
Mhm.
But I would tend to agree with that, especially, Preston is a little bit different. I think, I mean, you're never going to compare a tight end to outside linebacker, but for the
Sure.
amount of snaps he's getting, he's not playing at the level he should, especially when Rashawn Gary is getting less snaps and putting up better numbers. So Preston Smith has been quite a hot topic. I think he's definitely regressed from 2019.
Definitely.
So, I mean, how smooth do you think Rashawn Gary can go in there and play obviously better than Preston right now, but how to even replace and be an improvement from the 2019 Preston?
Yeah, I don't know. That's sticky. Can he be better than the 2019 Preston? Because the 2019 Preston was pretty damn good, Joey.
Mhm.
So it's tough. I look at it, and I definitely think there's really bright days ahead for Rashawn Gary. I think he's developed. I'll admit it. I think nicer than I thought he was going to.
Mhm.
And he's had a big jump in year two, even though he's not playing every snap by any means. He still played well, and I think he's progressed throughout the 10 games this season as well. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'd love to see him get more playing time. Preston is in a different scheme, or schematically, the way they're using Preston is different this year, at
Yeah.
least in some ways. And I think that at least that has something to do with the aforementioned regression. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think, yeah, I want to see Rashawn, but I also want to see Preston pick it up and see him use the way he was last year,
Yeah.
because he was a beast.
Mhm.
And him and Z were the focal points of this defense last year. And
Yeah.
this defense had success. They won a playoff game last year. And
Yeah.
the way we're looking at this defense right now is, I don't know, with the way they're playing, if the Packers can legitimately win a playoff game this year. While every
Yeah.
team in the NFC has their issues, the defense frightens me. It really does. So
Yeah.
we'll see. But they couldn't get off the field on Sunday against Indy, and
Mhm.
that worried me. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that third quarter against Indy is going to be what a lot of people look at, and not opposing teams, but Packers fans, and especially we have Aaron Rodgers. We're going to make the playoffs every year. You and I are young enough where under Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, we pretty much expect going into every year that we're going to make the playoffs
Yeah,
and
we're
hopefully
blessed, aren't we?
yeah, hopefully have a deep run. And I think a lot of Packers fans made 3 conference championships in the past 3 years. Uh, 2 of them have been blowouts. One of them was a blown lead and plenty of awful mistakes that can be almost compared to this Indianapolis game.
Yep.
So I think people want that in their heart to be convinced that the Packers are going to be a dominant team. And I've used that word a lot, but just the fact that last year there was the 49ers who you could have said back in week 12 that they're probably going to make the Super Bowl and it's going to take a really tough competitor to beat them. And I think the NFC is a really different landscape right now.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Looking at the playoff picture, I did a little bit of research here once in a
Oh,
while.
boy.
Yeah, now we're getting serious. After week 11, 2019 playoff picture, the 49ers were in first with 9-1. Packers only 1 game behind them at 8-2. Third, Saints were tied with them at 8-2. The Packers had a tiebreaker over them. I believe it was division wins. Fourth, the Cowboys at 6-4. Seahawks at 5 with 8-2. The Vikings at 8-3 at 6, and the 7th seed would have been the Los Angeles Rams. So now the Packers were only 1 game behind the 49ers and tied with the Saints. However, like I said, there was a lot going for the 49ers in their team at that point.
Yeah.
Right now, there's just a lot of really close records. There's a lot of people that don't know, who couldn't tell you who's the best team in the NFC. Um, and really, it's the same for AFC at this point, and we'll see how that turns out. But right now,
Yeah.
Packers are 1 game behind the Saints at 7-3. They have the tiebreaker of them. They don't have the tiebreaker over Los Angeles at 7-3. Fourth, the Eagles at a shocking 3-6-1. Quite the playoff record right there.
Yeah.
Seahawks at 7-3 at fifth. Buccaneers coming in at 7-4, and the Cardinals at 6-4. So, it's going to be interesting to see how these last 6 weeks play out. I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you who's going to win the NFC, who's going to get first seed, who's going to get fifth seed, sixth, seventh. And the NFC West is looking really competitive. There's a lot of teams, the Rams only 7-3, but they
Yeah.
could be that team. The Packers could be that team. And we'll just have to see a team has to have a lot of momentum going into January. And I think there's going to be a lot of matchups where if only we would have played this X and Y team in the divisional and championship round, we made the Super Bowl, and just matchups aren't going to play in their team's favor. So
Yeah. Here's what I'll tell you about the NFC. It's wide open. You're right. But it's still confusing to me. I can't sit here today through 11 weeks and say I'm thoroughly confident that the Packers are the best team in the NFC. I can't lie to you like that. I can tell you this, though. The parity is at an all-time high, and I'm sitting back, relaxing, and enjoying it. I think it's just more fun to watch football when it's anybody's game, and it feels that way. Every team in the NFC has some serious issues, and that includes the Packers. So it's a matter of those matchups, right? Executing those right matchups and exploiting those right things, and you can win, any given Sunday, right? So when we look at the Packers and the way that playoff run is going to go is, hopefully they end up with at least a home game, if not home field advantage, by getting that 1 seed if they can get there. And again, it's wide open. They can get there.
Yeah.
So, as long as they get a home game, I'm confident with their pull. Right now they could be looking at, a team like Arizona and then a team like Seattle to get to the championship game. I like their chances with that route. I like their chances against anybody in the NFC East if that happens. I like their chances really against anybody in the NFC South. I think the Saints scare me the most out of any team. I'd like to see the Packers play the Bucs again. I think that would be a fun game the second time around.
Especially at Lambeau.
Especially at Lambeau, 100%. So we will see as we approach the playoffs. I can't believe how close they are already. Football season seems to fly by faster every year, but I'm not counting them out. I'm just not, going to sit here and act like they're the absolute favorite right now. So I think, like you said, I think it's anybody's NFC to go in. It's just a matter of, who gets hot at the right time and who has the momentum rolling, as you mentioned. So I'm excited. I'm excited because this playoffs is going to be, a little bit more fun than we've had in past years, I think.
Yeah, the lot of flack the Packers have gotten is not being physical enough. Going up against good teams, like I said, 1-2 against teams over at 500 at this point. I think if you look at this Colts game, though, you take away those four turnovers. There's a lot of should have, would have, and could have as a Packers fan. But if you take away those 4 turnovers and maybe one of those 3-and-out drives, and it's probably a different outcome. And the fact that they were only down by 6 and we're 40 yards away from winning that game against the Vikings. Buccaneers obviously wasn't close at any point of the game. So I just want to see him because I really feel and I wanted to see something in the Colts game. I don't know if I really saw that, but I want to see every player play to their full potential. And I think this team could be really special because, the breakout games we've had from these young players at this point, it just seems like everybody has a good game. And then, one player, 2 players have a great game. And then the rest of the defense, rest of the offense is not on par with them. So do you think the Packers can put it together and make everybody play to their full potential going into the final stretch?
Yeah, that's kind of the perfect game I was alluding to earlier. I think there will be a game where the Packers hit their stride and you're feeling really confident about them. It's got to happen on the stretch. It's the home stretch. Matt LaFleur is going to be preaching. They need a good game out of everybody, and I think we're going to see it. Even if it's against like Detroit, I don't care who it's against, as long as it looks pretty. And I would love to see it against a team like Tennessee or Carolina, where it's tough competition. It's a team that's either borderline in Carolina's case or a playoff team in Tennessee's case. I would love to see them go in and just punch them in the mouth. And I feel like the last 2 times the Packers have seen Tennessee, that's what they've done to them. So I'd like to see the Packers do it back to them because I think Derrick Henry's had, the games of his career against Green Bay, it seems, every year. So, I like their chances to put it together. If everybody is healthy, and we'll see what happens with Corey Linsley down the stretch here, but if we can get everybody healthy on offense, you're going to see another 40-point game from Green Bay, and hopefully this defense can channel some inner 2019, and Z and Preston can have a great game. Kenny can, clog up the middle, and Jair and Kevin King can take care of business, in the defensive backfield. So
Yep.
I like where this team's at. I just
Mm-hmm.
right. It's finding that last piece of the puzzle and really put everything together for one go.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. I'm confident it's gonna happen, but I just
Yeah.
don't know when yet.
Yep. And I was bored yesterday. I watched the Packers versus Bears 2019 game.
Oh,
I think I don't know what I was looking for. I was acting like I was doing some film study, but Kenny Clark had a great game there, and hopefully he's coming off his injury. I think last week against Colts was his best game of the season,
I'd
and
agree.
hopefully all those players can build off of that. Maybe we need to get Matt LaFleur to get a sledgehammer and some watermelons. I don't know what needs to happen, but right now I think it really only takes one big step for the Packers, and they could really go on a deep playoff run. So we'll see how that ends. It's going to be week to week. I don't think you can really say, like when people ask you, oh, it's a big NFC matchup, who do you want to win? Because we have no idea what tiebreakers are going to come in,
Yeah,
who's going to be lucky enough to face the NFC East team. We have no idea. But, Alex, I thank you for your time. It's a great
sure.
chat.
Great chat. Appreciate the time, man, as always.
No problem. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Where can they find you, Alex?
I'm the best at Twitter. I suck at Instagram, so I'm not
Yeah.
even going to plug that. At Alex_Strouf on Twitter to connect with me. I love the interaction. I love to talk some Packers. So feel free
Yep.
to come join the community.
Yep. Make sure to follow us on Underage Packers. Follow me because my account got suspended. And make sure you subscribe to the
What
YouTube.
happened there, by the way? Can we get a story time out of you?
I really don't know what happened. I don't know why Jack Dorsey is mad at me. All I did was on election night, I muted everybody that was talking about the election. I probably should have just deleted the app. But, I guess they saw that as spam-like behavior. So that's that. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Go Pack Go.